Due to some content, discretion is advised.
It's October, and it's that time of year where we talk about things that go bump in the night. My next guest, you may have seen him on the Travel Channel, on the Sci-Fi Network, or maybe you've seen him on stage rocking a guitar, or maybe even yet, he's led you on a tour of one of the most haunted places in the Midwest. I know him as my friend, Mr. Johnny Houser. We're going to be talking about ghost stories, anxiety, how we deal with stress, and the overall state of society today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Caught on the Mic.
Yo.
Welcome, my friend.
What is going on?
Man, it's been a long time since we've seen each other. I think it's been since the band days, yes?
Wow. How many years ago was that?
I think we did... I think one of the last times we played together was in Auburn, Nebraska at a teen club, and you were in a band called...
I don't even want to say it. It's the worst band name ever.
It's the best band name ever. Just say it.
The band I'm in.
That was good times.
I remember being so excited to play that thing, but if we went back and looked at ourselves now, I wonder how depressing that really was.
Oh. For sure. But I mean, youth has its merits, and it's always fun to kind of go back in time and look at those memories.
For sure.
So, do you play at all still?
I haven't touched a guitar in years, man. I have zero desire. None. And I'll try and pick it up, and it's just like, eh.
I'm the same way. I'm the same exact way. I think last fall, about a year ago, I sold my last guitar, and I was
really?
Yeah. After not playing at all, I was just like, and it was a nice guitar. I was super proud of this Martin acoustic guitar that I bought, and then I just was like, I'm just not feeling this anymore. It's not where my headspace is at, so I just sold it.
Wow. See, I haven't sold any of my guitars. They're like literally just laying on the floor in different rooms.
Yeah.
But I haven't got myself to that point yet, but I know I'll never, I just don't care.
I get it.
I'm not going to be a rock star, so.
Right. Right. Now we have kids to vicariously live through.
And I've tried to encourage my kids to play. They don't care anything about it at all.
Yeah. Mine pretend like they do for about 5 minutes, and then they're out.
Yeah.
So, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Man. Typical Gen Xer, trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. It's forever I thought I was going to be a rock star, and then that took a different turn, and 44 going through a divorce, like here we are. Like, what do you even do with it?
We've been there. It's weird whenever you kind of get into that second wind portion of your life, whenever you're kind of pressing the reset button a little bit. Mm-hmm. Because I went through that myself, and it's not a lot of fun, but a lot of fun at the same time. It just depends upon what day of the week it is.
Yeah, like I went out and bought a Harley.
Yep.
She always said, "You'll never own a Harley." It's like first thing, and I've always wanted one, and now I have one. And it's great. It's kind of a new, fresh perspective on life. Like, it's not all bad.
Right, absolutely. So creatively, you've got a podcast with Nick Groff.
Yeah, it's myself, Nick Groff, Chad Lindbergh, who is on Fast Furious, October Sky, a bunch of movies, and my friend Josh Hurd, who runs Malvern Manor.
Oh, wow.
Called the G Crew Podcast. Right now it's only on patreon.com.
Gotcha. Okay, good. So I got to tell you, there was one day I was just kind of sitting. It was a Sunday, and I'm cruising through the reality TV shows, and I think it was the Travel Channel or Sci-Fi, and all of a sudden I saw a thing on the Villisca Axe Murder House, and there you were. And I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
So how did you find yourself in the paranormal game?
Well, at that point, I'd played with a gal out in Nashville for a long time, and we kind of somewhat toured, It was all right. And then I did another band, and we recorded out in LA, out in Hollywood and stuff, and it was doing decent. And I ended up moving to Villisca, and I always knew about the axe murder house, and I befriended Darwin, who owned it. And he's like, oh, I'll pay you to help out here and there. Chad Kalick and Ryan Buell got a hold of me on MySpace. Like, this is how long that was ago.
Yeah.
And they said, we want to film a documentary called American Ghost Hunter. We want to stop by the axe murder house, blah, blah, blah. They ended up doing it. Well, Chad Kalick, the producer for Paranormal State, and he was on Paranormal State, was a fan of the band I was in. Not the band I was in. See how that...
That's awesome. That brings things full circle.
Yeah. But the one I was currently kind of in.
Sure.
And we just became friends, and he kind of hooked me up with a lot of different paranormal stuff. And then when I met Nick Groff from Ghost Adventures is when I went full swing into it. So it just happened. It's just like puzzle pieces that just happened by itself.
So prior to getting involved with that, where was your state of belief?
I always loved ghost stories. Did I believe? Kind of. I was very much alien government conspiracy guy.
Right.
At that point, like I was probably 6 months away from a tinfoil hat. But the whole ghost thing was very kind of new. I didn't have any idea that people wore matching T-shirts and investigated ghosts. Like,
right.
It's almost like cover bands, you know?
Right. Absolutely.
And then when I kind of got a glimpse of that, it's like, oh man, this is cool. Like, this is way more fun than playing music in a bar.
So, continuing that train of thought, I don't know if we've told our listeners yet, where are we recording this today?
We are at the Villisca Axe Murder House in the upstairs kids' room, which is known to be the most haunted, so...
Pretty spooky stuff.
Put your headphones on and listen to this one. There may be some voices caught, who knows?
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the Villisca Axe Murder House and kind of give us the story?
So... It's kind of weird doing it in here. So June 9th, 1912, town has a church service, which got over about 10 p.m. The Moores, family of 6, come home with 2 little kids, Ina and Lena Stillinger. They were just friends with their daughter, Catherine. Next day, the neighbor kind of notices something's up, so she gets a relative down, found 2 bodies downstairs, 6 bodies upstairs. All killed with an axe, hit multiple times with a blunt part. Mirrors were covered, half-eaten food left at the table, raw bacon on the floor, like weird crime scene, all destroyed by half the town. And detectives questioned people for 5 years. At the end of 5 years, a little minister named Reverend Kelly confesses, but he said voices told him to kill and a shadow gave him the axe. He said he walked in, killed everyone, then he said he didn't, then he said he worked for the Queen of England, and he was acquitted of all charges. So it's Iowa's oldest cold case at this point.
Wow. So there were 3 suspects at the time initially, right?
That's what the TV shows and a lot of podcasts and our website even says. But, F.F. Jones, state senator, Blackie Mansfield, Andy Sawyer. The reality was 5 years of gossip in a small town about a murder. Like, they questioned people for 5 years.
Absolutely.
Everyone. It was like old man so-and-so is weird, he did it, which went nowhere. But
right.
F.F. Jones, the state senator who was on the front page of all the papers, went nowhere.
Right.
So really, there's 3 or 4 suspects everyone talks about today, but back then there were hundreds.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny, kind of tying it personally. I grew up in small town Iowa, or at least went to high school in small town Iowa, and I was the new kid in town. Mm-hmm. So anytime something went south in that small town, I was the first one that people thought.
No, for sure.
And so I get that all too well.
And like by year 3, there's no motive in this,
right,
whatsoever. So by 3 years in, people are just making up motives,
right,
and that's where you get the possible affairs, business dealings, scandal, like all gossip.
Right. And I know the common theme that gets shared is that this case was big enough that it knocked the Titanic out of the headlines when it happened.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's crazy. So the 1930s, 1940s, there was a series of seances here.
Yeah, they brought a psychic down from Red Oak named Miss Hamilton. And I'd love to do some more research on who this person was, but they thought they would try and figure out who killed the Moores. that way, which is always a great idea to have seances. I mean, that's...
Yeah, I mean, debatably, could that have been the thing that maybe jarred the spirits loose here?
I think, honestly, that something was here way before the Moors were even killed. Because, Reverend Kelly in his confession said a shadow came out of the... Well, he said that voices told him to kill. He went for a walk. A shadow came out of the backyard, handed him an axe. Like, nobody's talking about shadow figures in 1918.
Right.
I can remember in the 80s, shadow figures were aliens, then interdimensional time travelers, and now they're the spookiest of ghosts.
Right.
Like, so was something here beforehand? And if you go back to the DeFeo murders, the true story of the Amityville, he said that a shadow told him to kill. And he killed like 6 members of his family with a rifle. No one wakes up. And the neighbors are like, oh, it's thundering. I'm sorry, but a rifle going off in your house is a way different sound than thunder.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I've listening to some of the stories of this place. There's been ties to almost to a biblical sense about Legion and the voices, which is a little creepy in its own right. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of like bulletproof 2 or 3 days ago, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go talk with my buddy Johnny, and we're gonna sit in the axe murder house. I'll be fine. And then I listened to this other podcast, and they started talking about that stuff, and I got a little creeped out, man. Not gonna lie,
it creeps me out daily, and I just try and distance myself. But yeah, I mean, I was here with a guy from Kentucky. He drove 12 hours up. We set up in the house, and we're doing a spirit box session, which a spirit box is basically a radio that sweeps frequencies, and it's unmuted, so you get like 100 a second or something. And I'm sitting there, and he's like, tell me your name, tell me who this is, and L or 1, I am one who, and like back, I'm not hearing half of this. He bolts out of the house, like plants it down the ramp, and he's like, take pictures of your backs. I'm like, what is going on? So we start taking pictures of our backs, and like you could see the L forming. And this is how long ago it was, the old digital camera, real camera. Every flash you could see it form. Like that happened right in front of my eyes, And in the recording, it sounds like it said the L word.
Oh wow!
And that's like a whole side of things I want nothing to do with.
Whenever I was discussing with my wife second episodes of the podcast, and I kind of told her that you and I brushed paths about doing this sometime, and she goes, why are you not doing that now? I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to reach out to Johnny now. So I reached out to you, and so then I kind of get on the YouTube machine, and one of the videos, she saw something, and I've watched other interviews where you said it doesn't happen, but she saw something where somebody said that they had brought the spirit home with them. So under no uncertain warning by my wife, she's like, do not do anything that's going to piss something off, and you bring them home with you.
Well, like the way I see it is like here they have a revolving cast of people to mess with every single night.
Right.
Like if it's to come home to my house, be like, dude's been watching The Office for 7 hours straight. Like, I'm going back to the Axe house.
Right. Yeah, in my house it would be Cobra Kai. It's like, he's gonna watch that show a 4th time in a row.
I've had people, and I've had stuff follow me home before, but it's like things will happen for a day or two, and then it just stops.
Right. So, one thing that I've actually paid a lot of attention to is some of the EVPs that have been captured here. What are some of the weirdest ones you've heard?
The scariest one I've ever heard is about a minute. It sounds like the murder's happening. I mean, it's hard to listen to.
Oh, wow.
You hear boom, boom, and like a woman screaming, and then boom, boom. I mean, it sounds like what the murders would have sounded like. And I was here when the team caught that. We were just talking out the barn, and we get a lot of return people, and one of them goes, I'm just going to throw a recorder in while we're doing this while no one's in the house. And he threw it in, came out, and we talked for an hour, and he got it, and hit play, and it was there instantly. And we were like, whoa. So I know for a fact no one was even in here.
Oh, wow.
I've had minute-long conversations, a woman with an English accent talking about getting the coroner, and that was caught on a Tuesday morning about 2 a.m. in February. It's like nobody's outside at
Right.
2 a.m. when it's like 10 below out.
Now, you kind of, when we were talking outside before we started recording, you said, you kind of alluded to the fact that sometimes the house here has seasons, if you will. Is there certain times of the year when the paranormal activity is a little higher than others?
When I first delved into this, and I'm like, okay, this is real. Like, there's no speakers, nothing cheesy like that. It's like, okay, there has to be a pattern to this. So I've looked for over 15 years for patterns in birthdays, anniversaries, moon phases, storms, the eclipse. I've seen nothing.
Oh, that's weird.
It's just so random.
That's weird. That's weird. Since you've become more intimately involved with the house, how is your view on the afterlife changed?
I 100% believe in good and evil. I mean, all we gotta do is turn on the news to see that that's evident.
Oh, absolutely.
I've never seen a ghost.
Right.
And everywhere I've been to insane asylums, old prisons, serial killer houses all over the country, some of the most haunted places, I've still never seen a ghost. Nick and I kind of think maybe it's more of time slips with alternate dimensions and things of that nature, which 10 years ago would have sounded like we're totally crazy, but like scientists are really looking into that now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There was like, I think it was the first month or two into quarantine, there was a science report about parallel dimensions, and they're actually starting to confirm that now.
Like every thought we have creates 11 different. I think I remember reading that whole thing.
Yeah. It's pretty insane. Since doing this, you've kind of become more intimately involved with the paranormal community. You've done a couple of conventions. What's something about yourself somebody might be surprised by in light of that?
My paranormal friends and community are completely shocked that I used to play music.
Yeah.
And then a lot of my music friends are completely shocked that I do paranormal stuff. But, riding the Harley, going to the gym, that's like what I really do.
Yeah. I'm in a similar boat. Like, I haven't played in a band in 9 years, and there is a whole segment of people that are in my life now that were like, you played in bands? And it's like, yeah, that was my life. That was my life. That's how everybody knows me in my head. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there's this whole other subset of people that know me in another light. So there are some other haunts in Southwest Iowa here. One of them you briefly touched on, Malvern Manor.
Yep.
Could you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so it was the Cottage Hotel back when the axe murders happened.
Okay.
So the first thought Josh Hurd, who runs that place, and I had, it's like, if the killer rode the train that morning and killed the Moores, he probably stayed at the Cottage Inn the night before. And then it was an old folks home for a while, and then it was like a mental home for a while. But the lady who ran the mental home would put an alcoholic in the same room as a schizophrenic. Like, she just wanted to help people, but that's making an explosive area for that place.
Sure.
A little girl named Inez reportedly haunts the place, who hung herself, or was found hung, with a jump rope in a closet.
Wow.
We're not sure the details on all that. There's a Gracie who had, I think, 13 different personalities.
Right.
I mean, the place is... I went to take a tour of the place, and I'm walking down the nurse's hallway, and I see something out of my peripheral vision, like a shadow go by.
Yeah.
And I stop and look down the hallway, and you can see kind of blacker than black, like it's darker than the dark.
Oof.
And I'm just staring at it, and I blink my eyes, I turn my head away, look back, and it just goes boom, right at me. And it's like, whoa, like that just happened. So I called Nick instantly, and we did the Paranormal Lockdown episode there.
Oh, wow. Woo. Woo. So, and I like, from what I can tell, the activity there has been kind of kicking up.
Yeah.
Like...
And, it seems like I'm friends with a lot of people that own haunted locations, and it's like the more people come, every night after night after night, it just ramps up. And I've seen this place, like what it was doing 15 years ago is nothing like what it's doing now. It's changing, it's morphing and adapting.
And that kind of lends to what your theory on the house itself is here, that it maybe isn't the Moores or the Stillingers. that it's maybe the house itself.
Yeah.
You kind of want to expand on that a little bit?
I think the house is haunting itself, that we can create hauntings, and I think we partly created this by opening it up, putting stuff back where it was, inviting people to investigate. Like, that just was like turning on the light switch. I hope that more families in heaven, having the time of their life, care nothing about this. I mean, at one point we were getting EVPs in French. There are 0 French ties to this area. So,
crazy.
Like, I really think the house is just, well, you walk into a room and someone had an argument. You feel that negative energy. It's real, and it lingers. Something like this that had like an atom bomb and negative energy dropped on it, that had to imprint into this place, and negative or energy doesn't disappear, you know. So maybe, I don't know. I just really, in my gut, feel like this place is just haunting itself.
Crazy. So since you've been doing this, what is the overall number one weirdest experience that you've had in this house or otherwise?
So the weirdest thing I've ever had in this house is right in the room we're sitting in.
I feel safe.
It was a Friday night. The overnight's canceled, so I thought I'm going to go grab a 12-pack and just go fix some stuff in the house. So I locked the door so nobody would walk in, and I'm up in this room fixing the bed over there, and I hear somebody walk in the house. I'm just like, seriously, people? Come on, we're not open, you know? Then I was like, well, obviously we're not open. They just broke in, idiot. So I thought, okay, these people have no idea I'm up here. I'm going to have a blast with this. So I hide in the closet. I shut the door. And the plan was scare the crap out of this kid and just be like, dude, why are you breaking in? If you want to see it, I'll just show it to you.
Right.
You know? So the walking, going around all downstairs, starts coming up the steps, comes in this room we're in. I kick the door open, do the big blah. Nothing. And right then, it's like somebody knocked the wind out of me. I was like, ugh. Oof. And so I reluctantly checked the whole house. The door was still locked. Watch a surveillance video. There was nothing. And you can see on that door where I kicked it, where it's split.
Yeah.
And I kicked that thing hard.
Jeez, dude.
And it took me probably 3 days to come back, and I stepped foot in the kitchen. I'm like, I got to work here. Leave me alone. I'll leave you alone. We got to have some boundaries here. Screw with the overnights all you want. They're fair game, but just...
I have at least 2 times a year where I gamble on a fart and lose. Yeah. That would probably be number 3 for me.
It's like, I mean, it felt like I got the wind knocked out of me, and it was the cliched blast of cold air.
Right.
I always heard that, and I'm like, oh, everybody says that. But yeah, that's real.
Oh, wow. So my viewpoints on religion are very similar to my viewpoints on politics. They're unique to the individual. Mm-hmm. You are an individual, so is everybody else. Everybody's sense of belief is unique to them, and if it's different from yours, that's perfectly okay, because that's what makes them them. So separating the idea of religion from spirituality, philosophically speaking, because spirituality is something totally different. From a spiritual sense, have you found a certain sense of peace with the potential existence of this paranormal phenomena?
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally comfortable with it. Like, and I don't know if I'm just like slowly turning into Norman Bates here or what.
Right.
But like, I mean, every day I do this, and whenever it's my time off, I'm doing conventions. Like, I'm just surrounded by people who believe in ghosts and people who think Bigfoot's a time-traveling alien and just odd characters, which I love.
Oh, absolutely.
But, I mean, it doesn't scare me at all, really. I mean, that instance with the footsteps, it was just so loud that I knew. I mean, it wasn't even, it's a ghost. It was somebody broke in the house.
Right.
And that just kind of took me by surprise, but, I mean, I'm always walking over to here and like, hey, guys, just me. I'm up here cleaning, you know.
Right. And that's a good point of view, and, you touched on going to these conventions and, I think we're a lot closer, which could be a totally separate episode of the podcast itself. I think we're a lot closer to our government flat out saying, okay, we've got aliens. This is where they're from.
Well, dude, like 2 months ago, Pentagon said we have in our possession off-world vehicles.
Right.
They said they have UFOs.
They've got them.
And nobody cares because Tiger King was on.
Right.
I know. Like, nobody cared at all.
Yeah. And it's just so, like, I don't think we're too far off from the other side of things and other things being brought to reality that I say that anybody who's a conspiracy theorist hasn't ever had to manage more than 10 people before, because if you've had to manage more than 10 people, one person's going to spoil it.
Oh, for sure.
Sure. But there are things that I'm sure that have been concealed from the public lexicon for good reason.
Yeah.
To not stir up that panic.
And like in the ever-expanding infinite cosmos that goes on forever, and there's billions of habitable planets, if we are truly it, how special does that make us, and how bad are we screwing it up?
Oh, absolutely.
But
absolutely.
I mean, it's mathematically impossible that there's not at least some microorganism.
Oh, absolutely.
Would be alien life,
Right. And that's just it. When you look at infinite galaxies and infinite worlds, that means there's infinite possibilities. Mm-hmm. So nothing's off the table.
Yeah.
That's not saying, believe every crackpot thing you hear, but it is like saying maybe you just need to stop and listen with a little bit more of an open mind.
Yeah. Like if an alien has found a way to traverse time and space, probably through a black hole, why do they need flashing lights on their spaceship?
Right.
Like I don't buy that.
Right.
But the footage of the Tic Tac.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, to me, that's like, okay, that's 100% proof. Like, it's giving off no propulsion at all. Like,
I've never landed specifically in one set of beliefs or one set of mindset. What I do have and what I can share is, I have a slight anxiety disorder, and my biggest trigger is the concept of death. And I struggle with that more than I will go nights without sleeping if I get into one of those headspaces. Granted, I have my workarounds for those headspaces. So in a weird and unique way, being in a paranormally based environment is comforting for me. Mm-hmm. So I hope that doesn't sound too weird.
No, because I think people look at death as a horrible thing. Like, what if it's the greatest thing ever?
Absolutely. What if it is that black hole, that interdimensional black hole that you're talking about, and that's, keeping open-minded to different concepts without trying to tie yourself to one religious or spiritual idealism, just being open-minded with that thought. Mm-hmm. So decompressing, comfort zones, So what does Johnny Houser do to decompress?
Oh, man. I'm full of anxiety all the time, too. Super hypochondriac. The mind plays tricks on you, my moments of depression, and I'm probably bipolar, slightly, probably everything, And, with anxiety, I stopped drinking coffee, and that kind of went away. Because I'd notice I'd wake up in the morning, down, 5 cups of coffee, and I'm just looking at Facebook, and I'm just getting more amped up and amped up and amped up.
Yeah.
And then for the rest of the day, I'm just so stressed, and so I just stopped drinking coffee. I stopped caring about social media. The gym is a huge, huge, huge one. And I'm old school with my music still.
Right.
For me, going into the gym and blasting old Pantera or Slipknot or something is just such a release of just
it's primal.
Yeah, exactly, it is. And there's been times I've got through with the dumbbell and just kind of threw it, I'm berserker mode.
Yeah.
And I was 275 at one point, and I lost all that, and then right before during lockdown, I've gained 20 some pounds. I think I'm 225 now, which is man, I gotta stop. I gotta get my head straight again. Right. But what it took for me is just rewiring the brain. I listened to fitness podcasts for 2 months before I even started going to the gym, just to get in that mindset.
Right. Yeah. It's so your coffee is alcohol for me.
Yeah.
I realize I can't drink booze anymore. I'll have drinks on special occasions, maybe, but I think I can only recall 2 times in the past 2 years that I've actually drank. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing as what coffee was for you. Is I drink, get drunk, wake up the next day and feel like I need to apologize to everybody I know
Yes.
for things I didn't even do.
Yeah.
And that would last for about a week straight. Like if I don't get up and go to the gym in the morning, or if I take a proverbial rest day,
Yeah.
like I regret it almost instantaneously. And it's like it kicks up that anxiety. And podcasts, man, I'm right there with you. The book that changed my life, and I know we're going to get hot and heavy on this one, is late year 2018, David Goggins released Can't Hurt Me. I listened to that book, and I would say for about a week straight, I was pissed off at the world because of direct parallels to my own life. 2 weeks later, I'm running 10 miles without even breaking a sweat. And it's just changing that mindset.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was big into Jocko
yes.
for a long time, and that's how I came across Goggins, I believe. And I listened to that audiobook, and just life-changing.
Yeah.
You know, like do something every day that sucks.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
to take that suck power away from it. And
Yep.
Like, I've listened to that whole book probably 5 times. And, you know, now I'm like, after quarantine's over and I'm trying to get back in the swing again, and it's just like, I need to listen to that book.
I've said the same thing to myself. It's like, it's probably time I need to listen to that book again just to get me back in the mode. I did hear that he is writing a second book, and he's got a clothing line coming up, which is pretty exciting.
I'm going to be spending a lot of money.
You and me both, my friend. You and me both.
But yeah, I mean, it's just like, I can remember when I was the deepest into it, like I'm like, okay, what would suck right now? Oh, I'm going to clean my kitchen with a toothbrush, spotless. So I did it, and now I'm like, I'd rather play video games and eat chips. Like, I need to get out of that mindset quick.
Right. So you did, in the heat of you doing that, you did a Spartan race, didn't you?
Yep.
How long did you train for to do that?
Well, I kind of kept doing what I was always doing.
Sure.
As far as, because they don't tell you the obstacles. You have
Right.
no idea what's coming your way. So I got, like, about 2 months beforehand, I get on the Spartan thing, and they have a Spartan Beast training program. And I was doing that, and it ramped up to, like, run a mile, lift this, 40 pull-ups, like burpees, run 2 miles. And, like, at the end of it, you're doing, like, probably 15, 16 miles.
Oh, wow.
And I was doing that. It's like, okay, I'm ready. Fly to North Carolina. It's 40 degrees and pouring rain. And all mud, and there's just zero way to train for that at all. You know, it was bad, and like the whole time, like everybody's seeing their breath, everybody's freezing. It's like, why did I do this? This is so stupid. Like, I have a tendency of trying to talk myself out of things constantly. And then as soon as we get in the little pit and they do this Spartan chant thing, like I just started dying laughing. It's like, this is so stupid. And then it went, and it was just like this camaraderie between everyone there that was so amazing. It's like, we're all in this suck together.
Right.
And everybody was helping everybody, and yeah, it was so much fun.
Good. That's awesome. You think you're going to do one again?
I don't know. I want to, because, you know, I made it halfway through the Spartan. And what happened was, I was up half the night. We were all up half the night before. We couldn't sleep. A few hours of sleep. And the Camelback I had amino acids and everything in it with my water.
Yeah.
Well, instantly the hose is so clogged up with mud. I mean, we're just covered in mud. Like, I can't get any water out of this. So I did, I can't remember how many miles. It was over around 8 or 9 or 10 with no water. And I'm starting to cramp up. And my left leg cramps, my right leg cramps, and like they just locked. And all they had was like little shots of pickle juice, like one throughout that whole thing. So it's totally dehydrated. And then I started getting hypothermia. And when they took me to the tent, and I ate a banana and drank some Gatorade, and within half an hour I'm ready to go again. It's like, can't, you know. Right. But that was like, I think they said the hardest Spartan Beast to date because of the weather conditions.
Oh, I believe it. It sounds like it. Assuming we get out of this real life horror movie that we're living in, known as the pandemic, alive, what's Johnny Houser got going for himself for the next year? What are some goals?
I want to get back in shape, get back into the gym, start eating better again, which I definitely will do. Got a lot of events coming up. We're booked, G-Crew's booked for Dallas, Texas Paracon in August 2021. So I'm just hoping that life gets back to normal and events start happening again and concerts and
Yeah.
But I'll still be sitting at home and doing axe tours and hitting the gym and riding the bike, and
Fantastic.
I kind of want to simple things down.
Yeah. Simplify a little bit.
I feel like my whole life I've always been chasing that big thing over and over and over and over, and I just want to just stop doing that and just live life and enjoy little things.
Yeah. Oh, I get that, man. And I think that's kind of the thing about this pandemic is it has forced all of us to kind of take a step backward and reassess.
You know what's weird? I miss lockdown.
That is weird.
I miss it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, see, like me and the two kids, we would just like, okay, let's go on a drive.
Right.
And I'm not missing the lockdown. I think I just really enjoyed just me and the kids driving.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's like life's somewhat back to normal and they're just kind of back off on their tablets. And it's like, I miss just doing stuff.
Right.
Like old school.
Yeah, well, and I think going back to the whole spirituality mindset, I think that might be, to some degree, if you want to find a silver lining, maybe this was something intervening in our day-to-day lives to tell us to kind of put the brakes on a little bit, start embracing family life again a little bit, start appreciating the small things and the little day-to-day things that, we were taken for granted.
Yeah.
Granted, you have the opposite side of that where the social media extremes got ramped up and are dividing society even more. But there is things out there that are kind of like the voice in our ears telling us to kind of get back to where life was.
Yeah. And as far as like the division and stuff, it's just like, I'm divided on that as well. Like, I think young people, their job is to change the world because this is going to be their world.
Yes.
However, there's not going to be a big revolution, like the wooden shields and stuff. Like
Right.
As soon as the cops intervene, it's over with. Let alone special forces or Navy SEALs,
Right,
military.
absolutely.
Like it's kind of, it's good protest. It's play acting revolution,
Right.
which is what kids are supposed to do.
Right.
But if you want change, become a cop. Run
Right.
for office. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where change starts, when you're in charge.
Absolutely. So it's October. You're probably getting a little busy with this place, yes?
Yeah. Good old, like, this is the month where it's just like, by the end of it, I'm done. I'm ready. Because we close here November 1st. We still do overnights, but day tours are done. So it's just end of Halloween. I'm just like, I don't want to talk to anyone for like a month because that's all I've been doing all month.
So if you're at liberty, I don't know if you're at liberty to disclose this or not, but who's the biggest guest you've seen come through here?
Well, the Slipknot guys did an overnight, part of them. That was super cool. Which I got to tell you this story.
Awesome.
I'm in the barn, and I never know who the overnights are. And this nice BMW, like, SUV pulls up. I'm like, man, this dude's got some cash. Girl steps out. It's beautiful, And this dude steps out. Huge, long hair, and he stretches back, and I see 7 tattooed on his arm. I'm like, that's Mick Thompson, I think. And then a few others come out, and I'm like, okay, I got to be cool. So he's like, where are you guys from? Well, West Des Moines. I'm like, yep, that's them. I go, you staying the night because you into the ghost stuff? Or they go, we just want to get some shots to show on stage before, like, we come out. So this comes out of my mouth. You in a band? And he goes, yeah, Huey Lewis and the News. You ever heard of us? And I'm like, I'm an idiot. I know who you are. I have no idea why I said that. So the next day, I come over to make sure their stay is good. In the 15 plus years I've worked here, I've never done that for anyone.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
So I'm like, everything good? Did you have fun? And Mick and I talked about Xbox for like an hour, and off they went. And so that was a pretty cool one. But I'll get bands that come through. Like, I had this one, he's like, I'm a musician. I'm like, oh, yeah? You know? He's like, yeah, we just got off tour with Lady Gaga. I'm like, yeah, no, you didn't. I guarantee you didn't. And I got the name of his band, and it's White Tie Affair, I think.
Oh, okay.
And I looked it up, and yep.
Sure enough, it was him.
Yeah. And I kind of wanted to come back and, like, get a picture with him just because. But it's like, I don't know that band. You know?
Right.
I'm sure they're good, but...
Yeah. I can't say that I'm familiar with their music either.
The coolest one, I got an autographed CD from John 5, who, of course...
Right.
And the CD is called Where Are You Going With That Axe? And the song number 2 is called Villisca.
Oh, no.
So, like, he's obsessed with the Axe Murder House.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And for our listeners, if you're not familiar with John 5, he was a guitarist. He played Marilyn Manson for a little while. He played with Rob Zombie. He's done his own thing. Phenomenal guitarist in his own right.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so he stayed here?
No, he never did come here.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, and I made up like a gift pack and sent to him of stuff from the house, including like a clown doll from here.
That's
and
awesome.
so on the DVD of his little tour that he was doing, the cover of that is the clown doll that I gave him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I hope he comes someday. That would be super cool. But
that would be fantastic. That would be fantastic. Do you ever run into people, and I'm sure I know the answer to this, but do you run into people that kind of feign a sense of inauthenticity with their experiences here at the house?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
People faking it, in other words.
Yeah. I think power of persuasion is a real thing. In fact, I know it is because when first month I worked here, it's like, I'm going to see how not gullible, but I would just be like, oh, it felt cold. Did you just feel cold? Yeah, I did. And then I progressed with it. It's like, did you just hear that? What did it sound like? And I'd go, like the dumbest noise I could. And they're like, yes, I heard that. And I told everybody after I did it, I go, that never happened.
Yeah.
But see how power of persuasion, and I do it with teams just so like, don't go into places like this with a preconceived notion because that could taint your investigation.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But, a lot of people, I've had people show me, oh, I got a picture of a ghost and it's obviously the ghost app. Like,
right.
I'm not an idiot. I know
right.
what's out there. And
right.
I just, oh, cool, man. Yeah,
right.
Whatever.
Yeah. There's so much content out there on this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just to kind of prepare, to talk about this a little bit, I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, read a bunch of online stuff, and it is kind of hard to kind of decipher between what the consistencies are and what the inconsistencies are. But I think whenever you told the story about some of the things you experienced and such, those are some of the most consistent points on I guess the paranormal map of things that occur here.
And I know this place so much now that somebody will tell me a story that they've had happen. And as far as evidence, I only rely on my evidence for as real. But people will tell me what they have had happen, and it's usually always repeating stuff that I'm like, yep, that's right on the money. Or they'll say something totally off the wall. I'm like, 15 years and hundreds and thousands of people, I've never heard that. So I'm guessing that probably didn't happen.
Right.
What
is the percentage of people that make it through a full overnight here?
Probably 75%.
Okay. That's more than I thought would be, to be honest with you.
And a lot of it's paranormal groups, so this is what they're after.
Right. Okay.
And then that other 25% are thrill seekers who think, oh, this will just be fun, and then something really happens, and they're like, we're out of here.
Right.
And then the other percent is the 6 ladies that's known each other their whole life. Once a week, they do something wacky together. That's, and they're usually drinking wine and laughing and having a blast.
I could see a bunch of basic pumpkin spice.
Yeah, exactly what it is.
And getting spooked.
Yeah. But, it's a lot of people do, but then there's just these moments where it's the house just has a bad vibe happening.
Right.
And during those days, I'll watch day tours, and they're out of here in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Usually I have to kick them out.
Full transparency and full disclosure, I felt nothing but good vibes myself since we've been here. And it might just be because of the energy we're bringing into the space.
That's the pattern I've seen. I was talking about patterns with nights and anniversaries and stuff. I've seen more pattern with people.
Right.
I don't want to talk to a dick.
Right.
and I'm alive. Like, I think people get what they want out of this place. You come up wanting to hit the hornet's nest with a baseball bat, you're going to get stung. If you come in just happy, putting off good vibes,
absolutely,
it's gonna be good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's exactly where my headspace was at, because I was super excited to see a friend I hadn't seen in quite some time, other than online.
Yeah.
And I think we've been rewarded with the good vibes in the house today.
Yeah, exactly. And, that's just something you carry off into life.
Right. Absolutely.
Be a good person.
We're only going to get out of it what we put into it.
Mm-hmm. And, I've talked to all walks of life that's come through here. I've talked to Muslims. I'm like, well, the news says that we should hate each other. Do you hate me? No, I don't hate you.
Right.
It's just like people are just really good people. It's just that percent that they show over and over.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just you have to make a conscious decision to will the good into the world. Mm-hmm. And it's hard, man, because I'm not good at it every single day.
I'm not either.
I would say that I'm only good at it 40% of the time. Mm-hmm. But, I'm going to be really good at it at that 40% of the time I am good at it.
Yeah, so. And I'm very much, I live in Iowa. I'm 44 years old. I love America. And when I see people burning the flag and stuff, it really ticks me off.
Right.
But it's like the Johnny Cash thing.
Right.
He said, I'm so proud to live in a country where we have the right to burn this flag. And he's like, but I'm also love the fact that I live in this country where we have the right to go beat the crap out of that person that burns my flag.
Right.
Absolutely. It just...
Absolutely. And I think that's just it. I mean, we just got to get to a place in society where we can kind of sit with people that maybe don't share the same idealisms as us.
That's called being human.
Absolutely. But we can appreciate it because that's what makes everybody special.
I love talking to people that have completely different views.
Right.
And that's yelling and fighting and everything's not going to change anyone's views. It's just going to cement their opposite views because they all get defensive immediately,
Right.
And I was reading a thing where, with social media and stuff, like kids today don't really have friends. They get all their interaction with social media, and they're all in these little cliques, and they post a thing of so-and-so's bad, and they get 1 million likes, and that reinforces their beliefs. And that's kind of creating the divide along with the news.
Right.
I think real life, getting and talking with I don't care what people do.
Right. You almost wonder if the world wouldn't be a better place if the internet was temporarily gone.
Yes, absolutely. I could care less what opposing views anyone had. And I just love people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think that's a fantastic note to wrap things up on, and I want to thank you for this opportunity. I've been pacing around excited for about 3 or 4 days about being able to do this and to have you on the second episode of my podcast.
It's my pleasure, and I think the most fun was just getting to see you again and just
likewise
sit and have a conversation with an old friend.
Yes.
That hasn't happened for I don't know how long in my life.
and it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
I do, and this is something I hope that my listeners can take away from this. Whether it's the last episode of the podcast or this episode of the podcast or future episodes, this first wave of guests are people that I genuinely care about, and I think you guys are going to genuinely care about. So please, if you're willing to do this again, I'd love to have you.
For sure. Anytime.
Awesome. I want to once again thank my good friend Johnny Houser for doing the podcast today. It was super cool getting to catch up with an old friend, and it was doubly super cool getting to record this where we did. Spooky. I have a special ask of our listeners today. Please go to whatever your podcast host is, whether you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. Look for the place where you can rate your podcast and give us 5 stars. This pushes us to the top of the search engine when people are looking for new content. As a postscript to this episode, because I have received so many texts asking me this, nothing directly scary happened while we were in the Axe Murder house, but I did have some weird audio issues while I was trying to edit this episode. Moments where the volume would spike really loud and then it would get real quiet. It was kind of unusual. I think I've got it figured out, at least well enough so I can air this for you folks. But so far, so good. And on a final and more sombering note, we got some heartbreaking news today. Eddie Van Halen passed away of cancer at the age of 65. I know so many people that were deeply impacted by his artistry, and I'm one of them. So this episode is dedicated to Eddie Van Halen in his memory, and to all of you Van Halen fans out there or people that were touched by his music. This has been Caught on the Mic with Michael Clark. Until next time, thank you.